I don't know why my computer is dinging at me. Okay, my MacBook is still dead. This is actually the iPad, so this is why it's shaking a little bit. I'm just going to talk really quickly about the villains of Pickwick Papers. Now, when you say the villains, for anyone who knows the Pickwick Papers, they think it's primarily Alfred Jingle, who's kind of a con man, but he runs a particular kind of con, and his buddy, Job Trotter. They're actually what's called strolling actors, so they don't really have permanent positions with a fixed theater. They're like a touring group. And I would say Job Trotter is probably younger than Alfred, but they're probably both in their 20s, considering. And Alfred has figured out that he can use his acting skills basically to try to convince other people he's a gentleman. And his con is he kind of romances middle-aged ladies, kind of. And he also just ingratiates himself with middle-aged men or other men, impressing them with his really ridiculous stories. And of course, the special thing about Jingle is the way he talks. He talks telegraphically. No verbs, it's mainly noun phrases, and it's quite engaging. So he's a very friendly, engaging person. And Mr. Pickwick realizes kind of what a con he is when Jingle tricks Tracy Tupman, which is one of the middle-aged Pickwickians. There's actually two of them are middle-aged, two of them are young, who is in love or thinks he's in love with this spinster aunt who's over 50, unmarried. And Jingle realizes the lady has money and he worms his way in and they elope to London. And there's a chase and all of this other stuff. I mean, it's all very, very comedic. He's not a serious villain. They don't know irreparable harm. They're very entertaining. Job is mainly there to trick people who are onto his quote master, who's really just his friend. And they kind of disappear early on. So you first have that elopement and he gets bought off, 50 pounds, I believe. And then they chase after him again. They hear that he's in a certain thing and he tricks them again and makes them look like fools. And then they finally come up against him and expose him. And that's all you hear for a while until Mr. Pickwick is in the Fleet prison, the debtor's prison, and he comes across Jingle, who is destitute. He's on the poor side. He has no money anymore. And that's why I say they had to have been in their 20s, because the strategy that they were pursuing was not a long-term strategy. There was no way he could keep it going. Anyway, Pickwick basically buys out Jingle and ships him and Trotter off to the West Indies to a sugar plantation, and they never come back. That's kind of forgiveness, Christian forgiveness, etc. I hear Dearman. So I'm going to fold that up. They never were very dangerous villains, but they were very comedic ones. Those weren't the real villains, and I'll talk about the real villains later.